Hello friends, welcome back. Today we are going to discuss about forecasting techniques. As we know, forecasting is the process of estimating budgeting figures. Suppose you want to prepare a budget. You want to estimate the sales revenue, your labor requirements, your overhead cost, your other variable cost. There are a lot of things you have to estimate while you are preparing the budget. Forecasting techniques will help you to estimate those figures as much as accurate as possible. In real world business, accurate forecasting allows business to optimize inventory, manage cash flow and allocate resource effectively, which are directly influencing the bottom line or net profit of the business. So it is the heartbeat of financial planning. It moves an organization from reactive decision making to proactive strategy. So once the company can estimate the figures as much as closer to reality, it can use that figures or that budget as a proactive strategy. Let's move into key forecasting techniques. The first technique is time series analysis. Time series analysis, its name itself it is mentioning. It is based on a time series. You are looking into your past data. Based on your past data, you are trying to forecast your current data. Suppose you want to forecast your sales figure for the next year. As per time series analysis or under some time series analysis, first you have to take the sales data for previous years, where you found that you have a sales growth of 10% or 20% or whatever it is. Based on that figure or based on that time series analysis, you can predict the future sales. That is time series analysis. It assumes future will mimic the past based on the passage of time. It is best used for stable environment where trends are constant. If the trends are consistent compared to previous year and we are expecting the same trend in the future period as well, then you can use the time series analysis. Time series analysis simply you are predicting your future data based on your past data or past performance. Now the second method, that is causal forecasting. The time series analysis which predicting the data based on the previous performance or previous data, but in the causal forecasting which trying to understand the data or situation behind the numbers. Suppose you are trying to link your total sales value with your advertising cost or your marketing effort or whatever it is, or your production efficiency with your labor efficiency or labor effectiveness. So in this causal forecasting, you are trying to link your key data with your one of the related data. Suppose your marketing spend or consumer price index. For causal forecasting, it requires a logical proven cause and effect relationship between one figure to another data or another figure. Then the learning curve analysis. This is another forecasting techniques. Suppose you are analyzing your production cost. There is a concept called learning curve. What is learning curve? Employees are gradually learning the process and they will become more efficient time to time. For an example, for an employee, on day 1 he is producing maybe 10 units only. On day 2 he may produce another 12 or 11 unit. On day 3 he may produce 15 units. So there is a learning curve involved. He is expertising with that process and he is producing more output than previous production. That concept is called a learning curve. Suppose you are analyzing your labor cost. You can apply the learning curve concept here. You can assume that based on your analysis, you can come with a learning curve percentage or a learning curve ratio to estimate the future expected labor cost. It is very critical for bidding a new contract or planning production budget for new especially labor intensive product. Learning curve is applicable only for labor intensive product. Once your product is more labor intensive, you can apply learning curve techniques to your forecasting method. Then the fourth technique, that is probability and expected value. Using probability distribution allow managers to weight various possible outcomes, suppose best case, worst case and most likely, to arrive an expected value. A long run average that serve as a reliable budget assumption. Suppose you have 3 cases you are expecting for next period, best case, worst case and most likely. Based on that you can give a probability for each cases and you can distribute your expected total sales, or you can calculate your expected total value with your best case probability into best case expected sales plus worst case probability plus worst case expected sales plus most likely probability with the most likely expected sales. So these are the key forecasting techniques that companies are using for budgeting: time series analysis, causal forecasting, learning curve, probability and expected value. Now we will move to how to calculate these forecasting, the values by using forecasting. The first formula is simple linear regression formula, that is y is equal to a plus bx. So you are, based on your business case, you can derive or you can develop a regression formula, that is a is equal to y is equal to a plus bx. We will just move into an example for a better understanding. Suppose you want to forecast your monthly electricity cost based on the numbers of production hours the machine run. Suppose the historical data given that your equation y is equal to 500 plus 10x. This 500 means it is a fixed monthly cost. That means even you run 0 hours, you have to pay 500. That is a fixed cost for your electricity. Then 10 is your variable coefficient, the cost per hour of production. Suppose you expected to produce 100 hours next month, you can easily forecast your utility bill or electricity bill by using this formula, that is 500 plus 10 into 100, that is 500 plus 1000, that means 1500 as your electricity bill for the next period. So this is how to calculate the cost by using regression formula. Now let's move into learning curve analysis. The formula for learning curve is time for first unit into learning curve percentage multiplied by n. N here, n is the number of times the production has doubled. We will just move into an example for a easy understanding. You are producing a new specialized component. The first unit take 10 hours. You are told to expect 80% learning curve. You want to know the time required for the first 4 unit. So here the first unit it is taking 10 hours and you have a learning curve of 80%, and in this question you want to calculate the required time to produce first 4 units. So first thing you have to understand the n, you have to calculate the n. N means how many times it is doubling. Total you have to produce 4 unit. So which mean from 1 unit you have to double into 2, then 2 you have to double into 4. That means 2 doubling has to happen. So that is n is equal to 2. Now you can easily apply this formula into your learning curve model. That means 10 hours into 0.8 square root 2. So how you will calculate 10 into 0.64? How we will solve this? It is 0.8 into 0.8, that means 0.64. That means 6.4 hours. This is for 1 unit. Now you have to multiply this 6.4 with the 4 unit to calculate the total expected hours to produce first 4 unit. That means 6.4 into 4 unit into is equal to 25.6 total hours. This is the time you have to expect or you have to forecast to produce your first 4 unit. Now let's move into expected value calculation. Expected value calculation is pretty simple. We will just move into example for our better understanding. You are forecasting revenue for a new product launch. You have identified 3 potential market reactions. Scenario A, week, where you are expecting 100,000 profit, where the probability of this scenario is 20%. Then scenario B, moderate, where you are expecting 200,000 as profit with a probability of 50. Then scenario C, strong, with a profitability of 300,000 with a probability of 30%. So how you will calculate the expected revenue or expected forecast from this scenario? You can easily apply the scenario 1 expected profit into probability plus scenario B expected profit into probability plus scenario 3 into expected profit with the probability. That means 20,000 plus 100,000 plus 90,000, that is 210,000 is your forecasted revenue based on this expected value calculations. Now we will move to summary of this session. The first one is time series versus causal. Time series predict the future by looking only at the past. Causal model predict the future by finding a driver or what is the exact reason for that figure. Just look into this example, time series where 100k in last month, 110 this month, and we are expecting 120 next month based on this figure. The causal analysis, if you spend 100,000 on ads, you will get 50 new customer. If you spend 2,000, we will get 100 new customers. That means that is connecting the relationship between one figure to another figure. Then the learning curve rule. Learning curve means once you are doing a complex task first time, you will be slow because you are learning, adjusting and troubleshooting. By the second time you will become more faster. By the third time you will improve your efficiency again. This efficiency or this learning is called learning curve model. Then the expected value, how to calculate the expected value? It is the averages of averages. It does not predict what will happen on a specific day. It will tell you what you expect if you repeated the event 1000 of time. That means in the expected value analysis, it measure or it predicting a value by multiplying the each scenario's probability with its value and adding all together. Then the standard deviation, the concept of standard deviation. Standard deviation measures it spread out your result are. If the standard deviation is small, your forecast can be more reliable. If it is large, your forecast is a wild guess. What is standard deviation? It is the deviation from standard to each number. Once you have your standard deviation is very low, that means you can assume that your forecast is more reliable. And if it is very high, you have to assume that your forecast is a wild guess. Just a small practice to test your understanding. If a regression analysis show a higher correlation between your factory utility bill and number of visitors to your company website, should you use your website visitors as a causal driver for utility cost? Explain why or why not. This answer is very simple. No, you cannot use your website visit or visit number of visitors to your website as your utility bill, or it's a correlation between your utility bill, because there is no relationship between these two figures. That means your website visiting and your utility bill, there is no relationship between these two factors. So the simple answer is no. Second scenario, if the first unit of a new product took 200 hours and you have a 80% cumulative average learning curve, how many hours will the first 4 unit take in total? How to calculate this? First you have to calculate your n. That means first 4 unit mean your n is 2. That means your 80% into 80%, which means 0.64. Then the 0.64 into 200, 128. This is for 128 is for first unit, and you have to multiply 128 with 4 to calculate the total. Let me take my calculator. Is 511. So it will take 511 hours to complete your first 4 unit. Then scenario 3, management is forecasting sale for a new store. They assign 20% probability to 100k revenue, 50% probability to 150k revenue, and 30% probability to 200k revenue. Calculate the expected value of the revenue. So how you will calculate? You have to multiply each probability into its scenario. That means first one 20,000 into 100k, that is 20, plus 50,000 into 150k into 50%, that is means 75, plus 200k into 30, that is 60. So it is 85, 95 plus 60, that is 155 is the expected value of the revenue as per this scenario. Now we are concluding this session. If you have any doubt or you need any clarification on any of these topics, please ask me on the comment section. Thank you for watching this video.